late. Call the meeting to order at 5:31-ish. All right, so first on the agenda, any adjustments?
We have a couple, Josh. So I want to add Michael Cohen to the agenda, and let's put him under select board items in front of storm damage report.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take town manager's report and put that behind the select board items.
Okay.
And the only other thing I want to add is somewhere under select board items, we should probably mention the vandalism to the stop sign on Carol Brown Way.
Okay, I don't know that much about it, so
Right.
Me either.
I can just,
give us an update on
I'll give you an update, and then I believe Eileen wanted to make a comment.
it. Yeah, sounds good. All right, so next would be approval of minutes from August 11th and August 14th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 11th and August 14th.
And I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the 11th and 14th. There's no discussion about that. All in favor?
Aye.
I don't believe you were there.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Which
right.
meetings we're talking about?
For one of them.
For the 14th.
I was not for the 14th. so-
Right.
That's right, yeah. So, okay,
You want a
so
motion?
so we'll revoke that motion, that whole thing, and start again with a motion to approve the minutes of August 11th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 11th.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of August 11th. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 14th.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of August 14th. If there's no discussion about that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And next would be warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer as presented upon completion of review.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants upon completion of review. So Karen, if you would like to go through the
Sure.
warrants for us, please.
So payroll warrant dated August 27, 2021 in the amount of $26,264.52. We still have lifeguards on this warrant. The next warrant will be a little bit lower.
Okay. Any questions on that one?
I looked at that earlier, I don't have any.
Okay. You're all set, Eileen?
Yeah, good. It's normal.
Yeah. All right, and then AP.
Accounts payable dated August 14th through August 27, 2021, in the amount of $148,610.83. In this warrant, we have storm invoices from July 29th for the work that the contractors did. There's approximately $33,631.50 for contractors. We haven't seen an invoice yet from Zaluzny Excavating for riprap,
Okay.
but that's going to be approximately $67,000. So we're at we're under
67.
$67,000 approximately. Also in this warrant, you're going to see People's United Bank. There are two payments, one for the exhaust system for $21,978, and we did receive the $13,000
Good. From the state.
from the state,
Good.
yes.
Good.
And then the new truck, the payment was $37,419.21. There are several names on this warrant. They're refunds. So basically what had happened was checks went out, they never got cashed. So we did a stop payment and we reissued the checks because we're in audit mode right now.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process that we have to, if they don't cash them, we have to rewrite them and,
Okay.
yeah, so we'll chase them down a little more, but other than that, everything else is normal.
Okay, so it had been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants as presented upon completion of review. And we've now reviewed. Any further discussion or questions?
Sure.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, let's see. I don't have an agenda. One off for one. Maybe it went, did it go along with that?
You should have an entire
Yeah, there it
packet.
is. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so next would be public comment on items not on the agenda. So do we have any members of the public who want to comment on anything that is not on the agenda?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Actually, I have a couple, but the first one would be,
Can you identify yourself?
yeah, my name's Rick Bain.
Uh-huh.
I noticed out front of the town hall, there's a really nice monument to veterans
Yeah.
of wars. I was wondering what's the criteria for a name to be placed on that?
Having been a resident, well, my recollection is having been a resident of Putney while serving. I think is what it is, but I'm not 100% sure, but we can explore that and get a definite answer. back
Yeah,
to
that'd be
you.
great if we can get clarification.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Is that,
And I think the Historical Society is in charge of that. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Yeah, I'm surprised I don't know, but I'm not sure.
I can have the town clerk research.
Follow up on it.
I
Yes.
remember when they were.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep in touch with Karen about that.
That'd be great. Yeah, really, it's regarding my father's service, which was in World War II.
And was he a resident of Putney at the time?
Not at
Do
the
you know?
time. Well, he was a part-time resident.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry, not in World War II. No.
We should find out what the criteria is.
Right.
And-
That's just my question. What is the
Yeah.
criteria?
Sounds good.
And my second question, of course, the last month, I'm sure has been very challenging for everybody who is important in this town. And I contacted Karen about 8 days after the event, curious about how priority is given to various damage on various roadways.
Uh-huh.
So again, I was just seeking clarification on that, because
Can I?
I hadn't been
Yeah.
informed.
So Mr. Bain lives off of Pierce Road,
Uh-huh.
way up on the hill,
Oh.
and then Meeting House Lane comes down from
Yeah.
the other side.
Right, yeah.
And there was substantial damage.
I'm not
I
surprised.
went
Yeah.
up there, I took a walk with Mr. Diamondstone and looked, and it's gonna take a lot, but it's a class 4.
Yes.
So Pierce Road only goes up to Diamondstone's driveway.
Yep.
Doesn't even go to the property line.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because it's a class 4, the town does not maintain
Right.
that road whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, and I understand, I saw the damage, and Tom also was up there. So it's not whether it's a priority, it's the class 4s we don't maintain, it's a private road. And it's up to the landowners to maintain it. Now, with that being said, Mr. Bain, you can petition, if you get that road up to a state standard, you can petition for the town to take it over at that point. But you're still gonna be doing all the work and investing all the money. So you gotta bring it up
You
to,
and or others.
right, on that road.
We had that discussion a number of years ago with, I would assume, your brother,
It
Stephen?
was about 10 years ago, I believe, Irene.
Yeah.
My brother and one of the other residence that's affected by
Further
this
up,
caveat, no, further down.
Oh, further down.
Yeah. And at that time, from my understanding, I wasn't here and I haven't read any meeting minutes from that time, but as I understand, the town did agree, based on the prior development of Meeting House Road and the inadvertent damage from runoff as a result of that engineering. It happened in 11, it happened again in 21. I hope it doesn't happen in 31, but clearly it'll happen again. And that's the future piece, sure. I'm a little more curious about the history. We've been residents back to 1965, so we're just about 56 years, and in that time, I have personal knowledge as well as I found a lot of documentation on 8 different names for that road, including Town Highway 48, which is still currently on the books at VT Trans. So again, with the history, I'm curious, when was it designated a Class 4? And why was it designated a Class 4? I don't think those are unreasonable questions.
No, I'm not sure, and I could be right. I mean, as you pointed out, it was pushing 10 years ago when we had this conversation a number of times, and we spent time up there. We also had the state engineer, so I'm sure the state would have some report on it. But I'm not sure it was ever more than a Class 4 in sort of living memory, and I might be wrong about that. But, I mean, how it would have gotten from, if it was ever more than that, it probably would have been a Class 3. It certainly wouldn't have ever been more than that or higher than that. How and when it got thrown up, I don't know, which is the term for giving it up as a certain type of road and then designating it as a different type of road or trail. But we did go through it, and we spent time walking up there, and there, one of the things that they did at the time was put a fairly significant sort of dam-like barrier above to try and route water in off the property above.
Yes.
And then there was some concern about that, pushing water onto other people's property, so it...
Well, you're correct in that, and in fact, that was repaired today by a fellow named Bill Fitzpatrick, who, I'm sure you all know him, probably know him better than I do, but he felt very, very confident if that swale had been maintained in some form or fashion, that we would not have suffered this damage. I am now able to gain access to my property from the Meeting House Road, as it was less of a slope, the damage wasn't as severe. That's only because I have some more specialized equipment.
Right.
A police car can't get there.
Yeah.
I don't imagine an ambulance can, or a fire truck or anything like that. So, I mean, I think there's, I know, of course, I'm not on the agenda, so you folks aren't prepared, neither am I.
So,
there are a lot of details, I think, though, that are worthy of being discussed in this to try to find a reasonable outcome. Who owns the property? Who owns that?
the town technically has a right of way through
Right.
there. I'm not sure whether it's actual ownership or not. I'm not sure with a trail situation. I'm not sure how that works.
I didn't find much information in the office on
Yeah.
that road.
There will definitely be minutes about it, but, I mean, as far as maintaining that dam up above, as Karen said, we don't maintain Class 4 roads. So we never would have assumed that or projected that we would maintain that. We may have, at that last time around, we may have said, we will dump a load of stuff here in order to create this. I can't remember, I just remember looking at that pile of material and knowing that it was gonna help divert.
Is the pile on your land or is it above it? I'm not sure.
Well, it's on the road, it's above, it's
It's above.
100 yards.
Okay.
up north of where the residence is, something like that. Basically, it goes up and then it sort of levels out, and it's kind of right up to the top there. But we met with all the other neighbors on Meeting House Road, we discussed it, and yeah, we had the state guy there, so, you know, there will be information somewhere about it. But yeah,
I'll dig
I
a
would
little
say,
deeper.
yeah, if we
Yeah.
can have some time to do
Right.
and look at it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hope to attend more of these meetings. It's something that's been on my mind in this situation. It's just kind of prompted me. I think it's important that I better understand, you know, how things work here and you know, how I can help or what my role in all that is. But, Chief, do you have any comments on the residents, the situation, and emergency services?
No.
Can you get up there if there was a fire?
To your house or to the house on?
My house.
No.
24 Pierce Road.
No.
And that's been
So
true-
that's a thing.
But that's been true for a long time, and anybody who built that house, my recollection is that house was built on it when it was a class 4.
Yeah, I don't know that. I think it was about 1995.
So if it was a class 4 when it was built, then the owner of the property assumes maintenance and upkeep of the road, and the town has no responsibility for that. And that's sort of true. I mean, we have a number of roads that is the case with, and some of them have a number of roads.
How would a person know that? Because I noticed there are many roads like that and they're designated with signage.
It would have been
In the deed?
deeded
maybe?
or
Yeah.
somehow designated. But, well, if a building permit was issued for it, which in 1996
There should have been, yeah.
then it probably was
Right.
noted on that as well.
Yeah.
But I'm not,
I know the blueprints, the original blueprints for the construction up there indicated it was called Spalding Hill Road.
I found a file on that road, and I looked through there, but there wasn't enough information in there. But I can contact the state and see what they have, and I'll look at the zoning file for your property, because in there should be some sort of covenant that would have been recorded in the land records, because I'm dealing with Jones Road right now.
Yeah.
In any class 4 in our zoning regs, anyone wants to develop land, they have to get permission from the select board first. So there might be documentation in your zoning file, and I'll take a look at that.
All right.
But it doesn't solve the problem with the road.
Right.
You
I
know,
mean,
It's a mess, and I just wanna say thank you for doing what you've already done from Meeting House Lane down, because I didn't see it in the beginning, but it was still rough, but I know
couldn't
you've
get my
done a
truck
lot
out
of
of
work.
there. I
with
mean, I
that.
had people that was
Yeah.
doing work for, and I couldn't do it because
Yeah.
I couldn't get my truck.
Yeah,
Um,
but the lower half, there's no way. There's so much fill that needs to go in there.
Absolutely, and I can't access the rest of the property, my
Right,
property
right,
that way.
right.
And I believe it's the same case for Mr. Caviola, because access to his upper pasture is virtually across from
Yeah,
the house at 24.
yeah.
Just a quick, I mean, I know everything's on record here, but I'm just gonna throw this out, food for thought. Okay? Because it's not my driveway, it's not my property. It is currently kind of a 4-wheeler playground. There was someone up through there again today, which, you know, that's a whole other issue. But, and there was, in fact, there was some damage to my property as a result of some 4-wheelers up there.
I heard about that.
Yeah, he broke my gate,
Yeah,
ran over
sure.
my gate, got the truck stuck at about 11 o'clock at night. So that's a real problem. And in fact, Windham County Sheriff's Office did respond and investigate and take a report on it. I don't know, but I appreciate, you know, being heard. I would just make this random suggestion, because this can just go away, like we'll never have this conversation again. If it was no longer a town highway or a class 4 or whatever, and I owned it, I would maintain it, there would be nothing to it. So I don't know if there's any feasibility to that. I feel otherwise it's just gonna continue to be a real problem, not just for me, But emergency services, there's a lot of work to do up there. I'm up there every day. I parked an RV up there, so I'm typically staying up there. I can't get contractors in there. You know, for any of you folks who knew my brother, well, he was a character. It's not who I am. And, you know, I hope none of that history is following any of this stuff. You know, I'm here to work with people and just try to have access to my property.
I mean, I think we need to do more due diligence before we can sort of continue the conversation, but we should certainly do that. But, you know, the one, we are hesitant typically to give up roads completely in a circumstance where there might be an advantage to the town at some point of having it being a road. I mean, again, if it, you know, if the house was built when it was a class 4, then it would have been built with the full understanding that the maintenance of the road was up to the homeowner, because that's just the way it works. Or, you know, if that wasn't understood, then I'm not sure why, because that is the policy. So, but there should be there should be documentation of that.
Well, but there has to be documentation.
Right.
Or it never happened.
You know, the other problem is if we give up right of way to it, for example, the fellow who owns the field across the way, if we give up that right of way, he loses his right of way.
Well, then he and I would have a covenant.
Exactly.
He and I would have a contract,
which is
agreement,
possible, but
you know, again,
something to think about.
When considering potential resolutions,
Yeah.
I thought I'd mention that.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So
Well,
I'll
we'll
get
look into
with
it
you,
more.
either email or I'll call you
Great.
and let you know what's
And I would
going
check with the state.
Yes.
Karen, check with the state
I
as well,
definitely
'cause
will.
I'm almost sure.
on. And I'll
that
send you
there's-
information on how to build it up to a class 3. I sent it to Ian. Ian has it, so.
Yeah, Ian's been curious, but
Yeah,
doesn't really affect him.
I know.
All
I'll be in
right,
touch.
so we're gonna move on. So we have, any other public comment on items not on the agenda? I don't see anybody coming up, so,
Eileen, did you want to make a comment? Did you want to read the thing we worked on?
I think that, we're gonna do that in, later, right, Karen?
Yeah, who's that?
That was Swift.
Oh, yeah.
That's me. I'm on my mom's computer. Sorry, it might be really confusing.
We already got it covered.
all right, so next would be Michael Cohen, which is an addition to the agenda. So, Michael? Hi.
Can you hear
Yes.
me, Tom? Can you, do you want to sit over here?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
So I've been a homeowner in Putney for about 30 years now, and have maintained very good relations with the town and with my neighbors. Back in December, I contacted the town manager about a process to start cleaning up the property right next to my property on the southeast corner of Town Farm Road and Upper Cassidy Road. The town manager assured me that she would work with the landowner at the time and would start the process for a cleanup. It's now 8 months later. I've seen 0 cleanup efforts, and I was told this week that the property was sold. And so I'm wondering, one, what is the process the town is going through? What was the agreement that was made with the former landowner, and has that transferred to the new landowner? And what can we do to get this done? It's 30 years I've seen this, and I've had to deal with it, and I'm really frustrated about it.
Tom?
Do you want me to start, Tom, or do you want to start?
Well, essentially, in all reality, whether anybody likes it or we don't like it, it's actually more of a state issue than it is a municipal issue.
Okay, so let's turn it over to the state.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna talk about that. After some complaints were received, Karen and I had some talks with the state representatives from Natural Resources. Typically what would happen is they would come down and begin to mandate what was gonna happen and set some pretty stringent deadlines.
Okay,
There's an unfortunate reality with that, in that frequently property owners, for lack of a better term, set their heels, and there is no progress at all. So understanding that and having witnessed that before in town on numerous occasions, plus given the fact that I have a fairly decent relationship with this property owner, I offered to act on the state's behalf and work with the property owner to begin to achieve compliance. Achieving compliance is not going to take, it's not going to be done in 90 days. It's not going to be done in 120 days. It's going to take
it's
some
been 8
time.
months so far since I've complained.
I'm sorry?
It's been 8 months since I've complained to the town manager.
Okay, I can speak to things only as of, I believe it was the middle of June.
Which is when it was turned over to the state,
Right.
basically.
Right.
So
Say that again, I missed your last.
it was when it was turned over to the state in roughly May, and then,
Right.
and then the state came and viewed it and has been working with Tom Goddard to figure out some ways to
Well,
move forward.
I guess I'm a little confused because I just heard Tom say that he offered to handle this in lieu of the state getting involved.
No, I don't think that is what he said. I think what he said is he offered to work with the state folks to try and make progress.
Right.
And,
And that's not what I understood.
That is accurate. I'm working very closely with the state and with the property owner.
Okay, so what's the state's position right now?
The state's position right now is, they understand the circumstances in their entirety. They understand the history. They understand the issues that we're up against. And as long as, and they're very comfortable and have authorized me to continue to work with the property owner in order to achieve compliance and make some headway, until there comes a point where I'm no longer able to do that. So that's where we stand. And I'm talking with the reps from the state once every couple weeks to give them updates.
Where does it stand now with the property owner, with the property changing ownership?
Right now, well, when we first had a meeting there, both the former and the current property owners were there. So right now, I'm working strictly with the new property owner.
You know, Tom, I can appreciate everything you're saying, but I'm not seeing any results, like zero.
Well, honestly, I don't know what to say to that, because there have been results and I have them documented. So there is headway being made. Again,
I'm there every day, I don't see any progress. I'm sorry to contradict what you're saying.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna argue it. The reality is that this is not going to be completely mitigated in a number of months. There's over 50 years of history here, and it's not gonna be addressed completely. And
I really urge you very strongly to ask the state to take this over. I don't think that we as a town are capable of managing this project effectively.
The problem is, from my understanding, is that the state is only going to do so much unless the state's attorney decides to prosecute related to this property. And my understanding is the likelihood of that happening is very, very low. So enforcement becomes the difficult issue. And as Tom asserted, you know, if you start to go head to head with a landowner on trying to manage their personal property, the likelihood of making any gains is limited. So, you know, if you're imagining you know, a company coming in and with crushers and equipment and moving everything out of there, the only way that would possibly happen is if the state mandated it, and I don't see it as a likelihood that the state is going to mandate it, because it's an expensive.
I think we have to go down that road, I'm sorry to say that.
Well, the state is aware of the property, they've evaluated. If you want to follow up with the state, that you certainly have that right.
The state has already appointed Tom to manage it.
No,
I don't, I mean, Tom, do you want to elaborate on that?
The state has authorized me, the representatives from Agency of Natural Resources, they have authorized me to work with the property owner on their behalf.
Good, that's what I just said, yeah.
No. Anyway.
You've been authorized to work with I'm saying I want to get that changed.
So my recommendation, may I make a recommendation, is to have Tom hand over the file to the state and allow the state to do what they need to do.
And if Mr. Cohen wants to deal with the state, he can deal with them directly.
That's right, and they can deal
Exactly.
directly with the state. It's out of our hands, our jurisdiction, and that frees Tom up to do other things.
Well, but I think that the reality is, if you heard some of the nuance of what I was saying, which maybe I didn't say it clearly enough, was that I don't think the state is going to jump on this thing in the way you would hope they would.
No, and I agree with you,
So
Josh.
I think
do
that if we can, if Tom can work with the state and make slow and maybe even not even noticeable progress, but make slow and steady progress over months, years, even who knows how long, that's more likely to have a positive impact than trying to get the state to do something about it on their own, because I just don't think they're going to do that. So
I beg to differ. I can respect what you're saying, but I disagree.
okay, so Tom, we'll be in touch with the state. We'll get information on the file, and you can be in touch with the state, because we can't.
Right.
It's clear that we're not going to be able to do anything that's satisfying what you're asking for. I will say once again, I think it's unlikely the state is going to do that in any sort of a timely fashion or at all for you, but it's beyond our ability to manage a property like this. So Tom has been helping to implement state recommendations to try and make some progress, but if that's, well, that's up to Tom and the state, and I'm not sure, given that it's a private property, I'm not sure honestly what your role in that would be, but if you want to have this conversation with the state, then that's probably where you should have it, because we're not equipped to have the conversation you want to have, so. Okay.
So, I appreciate if I can get some feedback after you turn it over to the state, what their response is.
Okay, well, we'll fill you in on what we can, and you'll have to figure out how you're gonna proceed from there.
I also had some comments from Ann Buckingham, who's also a neighbor to the property. She couldn't attend the meeting tonight, but she feels basically the same way that I do, that she sees no progress being made in the cleanup, and is very frustrated at the lack of communication that's been going on between the town and her. So I'm just passing that on for her.
I so noted, thank you. We have recognized her communication, and we seem to be having, in both instances, we seem to be having a disconnect in what we are able to communicate. So we'll try and figure out how to get the state further involved in that if that's the way we need to. But it's not something.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Fairman.
as a friendly comment, how can I put it, supporting Mr. Cohen, you have stated several times that you believe the state will not do anything. Why do you say that?
Conversations I have had over the years with situations like this, in which the state very clearly says, much as we would love to be able to manage things like this, We have very limited resources, we have very limited personnel, and it's a private property, and it's a really complicated, these are complicated issues. And I would have to say, in my time on the select board, there have been at least 6 to 10 that have had some parallels to this, and the state is very hesitant to insert themselves in things like this.
The law is being broken here. There is a state statute against the number of junk cars, and this is clearly in violation of that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're gonna.
So the state will
Right.
continue. Hopefully we can communicate to them that it needs to be addressed more readily, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so that would move us on to storm damage report. Tom.
Things are looking good. The only true disconnect, if you will, now is River Road South.
Yes.
In the swale by Greg Wilson's, just past Greg's. Again, that's gonna be long-term. I know Brian's waiting on the hydraulic study to be completed for that. He's got an idea of what needs to go in there, and he's kinda prepped himself for where that's gonna come from, whether it be a culvert or a box culvert. Aside from that, everything is in real good shape. Are things finished and done yet? No. But things are in real good shape.
So if I can ask you a question, we talked last meeting I was at, which was the 11th, about, Brian was there for that one, I think, and saying that probably next spring, probably on that site on River Road. Is that what are you still thinking?
No, I know Brian, one way or another, that will be open before
Okay.
snowfall. Well,
And the only reason I
before
asked,
snowfall.
a couple people I know on River Road have called and just wondered, and
Yeah.
I'm sure,
Yeah, I
Go
have
ahead, Karen.
information, because I spoke to Brian. So Brian's plan for River Road is, we're still waiting for hydraulic reports and from the state. It takes up to 2 weeks. We should maybe see them next week or the week after. They'll tell us what needs to go in there. But if it needs to be a box culvert, which needs to be made, it's gonna take time.
Right.
So Brian may lay a pipe in there, fill it in, and then come spring, we'll,
Oh, okay,
We'll
so
do it
that's
the
maybe
right
where the
way.
spring comment
But-
came from.
yes. So he's in pretty good shape. He was out on Aiken Road. I took a ride out Saturday on some back roads, and there is a lot of work. Well, there is work to be done still. There are some roads that are, it's gonna take a little while. Brian's hoping by winter, everything will be, and when I say winter, I don't mean like December, I mean like, October, November. Things should be back to standard, state standard, okay?
nice, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That would be huge. That's. there was a
Sorry,
lot-
you said
lot
by
of damage.
November.
Yeah, he's hoping
That's
by
that is
November.
amazing if that's the case.
He was
Yep.
out this week, and redid, the decking on Millbrook
Mhm.
Bridge. He was out on Aiken Road today, Sand Hill. He was supposed to get to Putney Falls Road, Pierce Road. Here's the problem right now, so some people are not getting mail. Because the post office can't get to the mailboxes. So Brian's gonna be looking at all that too, and any bad spots, the guys will, clean it up. The grader's been out. They're all over town right now, because we're putting out mini fires.
Because there's stuff everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and they're still trying to get other work done, but, he spoke to Basin about paving projects, so things are still moving. They're not moving as quickly as we want them to, but, things are getting done. And I wanted to mention too, Richard Fletcher's place, so you saw the letter in your packet, and Tom and I are gonna go meet with the,
Direct from USD tomorrow.
and look at
And
that.
look at it.
So one more question, the subs we hired, Fitzpatrick and Garrett, are they still working on
No.
project for their
No,
job? Okay,
but they will come back in if we need them,
right.
but right now, no. They have other jobs to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, and all the crews involved,
Right.
yes.
Thank you so much.
And the community for their patience. I mean, it's been hard, and there are still people with property damage that still don't know where to turn, and it's very frustrating for a lot of people. And
Especially since the storm, the willingness of the local contractors to help us out in that situation, put them behind in their schedules.
Right.
And therefore makes
Yeah.
them less available, et cetera. So,
yes,
no, I mean, it's a complicated situation, but it's also, you gotta keep in mind that there's 55 miles of road out there that they're attending to. It's a lot of material and a lot of trucking and a lot of both grader work and backhoe work and excavator work, so.
And it all wasn't in one spot. They were
all
heavily
over.
damaged in many spots,
Right.
which makes it much more difficult.
right.
Yeah,
You get all your equipment there, and then you move all your equipment, and you move all your equipment.
and so, yeah, I mean, I think, as Karen said, they're sort of putting out fires. Metaphorically, they're triaging and trying to do the most important things first and moving through it, but it's a lot of work, and it's still gonna be a long time before things are normal. All right, thanks, Tom.
Anything else? Tell me, you good?
All good?
Thank you,
Okay.
Tom.
Have a good night. All right, so fuel bid review, recommendation and approval.
All right, so we did receive several fuel bids, which was good. Bad news is prices went up. And my recommendation is, hold on, if I can find it.
Where is this? Oh,
Spreadsheet is. My recommendation for oil is Dead River Company. We normally go with Barrows, but they are higher this year by, well, I can't really, the difference is $2,106.30. But overall, it is up,
Almost 50 cents a gallon.
yes,
Wow.
yeah,
More than,
right.
well, not quite.
50, yeah.
50.
Yeah. So Dead River is the lowest bid, and I would recommend them. And then, as far as the propane goes, so we've had Osterman, we don't own our tanks. So my recommendation is to stay with Osterman. They are about $493 more than Irving. Otherwise, we're gonna have to swap out all our tanks and,
And that's a cost to us? They don't do the swapping for,
no, it's
To
not
get
a
the
cost to us, but it's a lot of work.
Well, it's also, I think as it implies here with a 2-year bid on propane, if you switch to a different company and you switch tanks, then
Yeah,
you're committing for a period of time.
right,
so you lose
So,
the choice.
yeah. And I'm not ready to like commit to a 2-year, contract with any service provider right now, or utility provider. Osterman was good. I mean, they're good to deal with. We didn't have any issues with them. And the only thing we can consider is if we want to keep switching based on price, we should buy our own tanks.
Go outright on the tanks.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
can probably, so Osterman owns the tanks we have.
Yes,
I mean, the other
Yes.
possibility, and I don't know how they do this, but often you can sort of rent to own the tanks over time. I don't know whether we want to have that conversation.
I
with them or
haven't
not.
seen that, and
They may not do that
Yeah.
anymore, but I know they.
Would we need
used
to
be a
assume
common
maintenance on them
practice.
if we did that?
We
Right.
would have to, and then
Yeah.
have to replace them every certain number of years. And I
Right.
don't know what that is, and we have to
Good point.
figure that all out.
Right.
And
same thing with the oil tanks, so I don't go down and look at the tank, but with a new company, it has to be up to
Right.
code, so we might find out that we're gonna have to replace oil tanks. I'm not sure, I'm hoping that's not the case, but it's a risk we're gonna take.
how many propane tanks do we have? How many?
We have one at the treatment plant, one at Sand Hill, we've got one big one down at the garage,
highway
and
department.
then at the fire station.
And the library doesn't have one?
No, and there's one more somewhere else. No, there's two, I think, at Sand Hill, two 250 gallon, 500 down there, I think 1,000 at the garage. But there's like 5 tanks.
Okay, so it's Karen's recommendation that we go with Dead River Oil for the oil, and we go with Osterman for the propane. Does somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion. So moved.
Yeah. I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded to contract with Dead River Company for our oil purchase and Osterman propane for our propane. And just as to note, that means that our total expense for oil would be $9,229.50. And for propane would be $6,358 total expense. And that's estimated, of course. But,
Yes, yep.
But that's a well-informed estimate. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good, thank you. All right, so equity and inclusion revised resolution based on new charges and candidates for committee and interview process.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
So the last meeting, you signed the purpose and charges.
Yep.
But we have a resolution out there from September 2019.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in order to annul the old one, we have the new one.
Okay.
So basically what I did, the front end is like just basic information. And then all the charges were copied and pasted from the document that you approved 2 weeks ago. I vetted it through Samantha Snow at Larry Slison's office. So she's fine with it. And it's good to go.
Sorry, can you say that again? Sorry, so you added the charges to the existing resolution, basically?
Basically, it's like, yeah.
So the front end Swift is a little bit different. You should be able to get it on the website.
I'll find it.
Thank you.
Can I suggest that, I mean, we passed the charges, and I think, who's going to speak to candidates for the committee? Are you going to speak to that, or is Swift going to speak to that?
So in your packet, I gave you the emails. Remember we requested anyone interested?
Yeah.
I also put out on Facebook and Putney a request for committee members. I haven't seen anything new. And that's where I'm at with that. So it's up to this board to decide how they want to handle that. Do you want a deadline?
For submissions?
Yes. It's pretty open right now, so
Yeah,
maybe
so,
we need a little direction so the public has some direction too.
so the ones that we got also, it seems like they were out there before we went down the new charges road.
That is correct.
So I'm not sure.
Would the board like to see like more than just a one-liner that I'm interested? Or during the interview process, you would ask more questions? How do you want to handle it?
I mean, we don't ask for more than a one-liner from others, so I don't think we should. I think that I agree that these are old letters of interest.
Yeah.
So I don't, we only just, Swift, do you want to comment on this at all?
Sorry, right, please don't cut that back. Yeah, I checked in with a few people. I haven't heard from anybody. It was all today, and I'm on vacation, and my kid is glued to me. But I haven't heard back from anybody. I know Mark is here, I believe. he can speak for himself. I know I would like to be on the committee, so my letter is still valid. And Mark can speak for himself. I haven't talked with Anne, or John, or Jamie. I don't know all the letters that are there. I know Lisa and Laura did not submit. I have talked to both of them, but they are not interested. What are the names that are there?
Jamie and Ann and Mark.
John did not, or John did?
John, we don't have that yet, and I don't know whether anybody's had a conversation about. I know at one point he was interested in continuing. I don't know whether he continues to be.
Or you can ask.
So it's Anne, John, and Jamie.
No.
Just sanitize it.
Currently, it's Ann, Mark, and Jamie.
Oh, not so John doesn't
that have letters of interest in.
So, Mark, you came on camera. Come on.
So should we have a deadline?
Yes.
That was a good question.
Well, it's ongoing.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to 9 members, so,
Right.
people might wanna join next year, and they could join next year.
I think we need to, honestly, the select board has not had a conversation about appointment to members of this committee. And I think we need to do that, and we have the privilege of doing that in executive session, so I think we should do that.
I want to make it clear, I only thought it was a good idea because it might get people to send their letter in, not to exclude anybody.
Right.
This is happening.
And then Swift, we should work with you to figure out how to get that word out a little bit further, that these openings are available and that the committee is sort of restarting in order to try and get people interested. But so I think we should have a conversation about it in executive session. And I think that I would like to have.
I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry. What are you discussing in executive session?
We are discussing the appointment of members of this committee, because we haven't had a conversation about that in any fashion, about how we would go about that, or what the interview might look like, or what the qualifications would be, anything like that. So I think that's something this board needs to discuss before we
I agree.
entertain appointing people to it.
This committee or any committee?
Well, it could be any committee, but particularly membership in this committee at this moment. But
do we have a timeline for that? And what's stuff I'm just noticing another roadblock here.
No, it's not a roadblock, Swift, it's reality. I mean, having been through what this board has been through in the last 2 years, I am not gonna start appointing people until we are very clear on what we now are clear on what the charges are, but I personally will not appoint anybody to this committee without knowing, without having thought about it with the rest of the committee and why we would or wouldn't appoint any single individual.
And I agree.
And that may feel like a roadblock, but again, it's been a long and difficult process, and I understand that, I can understand how that would feel like a roadblock to you, but I am not gonna repeat what we did the last time around.
Is there any reason to not start a really small committee of Mark and myself tonight?
Not until we discuss it.
Well, I think that, I guess my feeling is that still is a committee. I mean, you and Eitan and Mark and myself are still a committee. I'd be happy to have a meeting between now and our next meeting, Swift, if you want to, so that we can talk about that as well. But we can't enter executive committee about it. Because
I'm not talking about membership. I'm talking about Eileen and I prepared this statement around some of the issues that came up this week around equity and inclusion in Putney, and there's things going on, and we need this committee. And even if it's just 2 people, we need this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Yeah.
as far as that kind of collaboration, the what I was talking to Swift about is being able to respond quickly for incidences of for instance,
Stop sign.
stop signs, being graffitied with with anti-Semitic symbols, and we came up with a anti-hate resolution for the select board, but it took us it took us a month to get to that point, and by that time, all these other things had happened. So what we were talking about is that if there was some way to collaborate and have that committee or some people kind of be aware of those things and then bring them to our attention and we can act on them. But Swift, I think in that sense, I think that there's no reason why you and Mark and a bunch of people can't collaborate outside of a committee to put that kind of thing together. And I'm not saying that to minimize the impact that this committee will have, but there's, unfortunately, we've been sort of running to catch up with a lot of things because of the storms and because of all this other stuff, and we need more time to be able to really wrap our heads around committee makeup and even just this this resolution that came, this amended resolution. So I guess I'm asking for patience on this again, because it does take time. All of this stuff. One of the first things I've learned being on the select board is that this takes time. Everything takes time.
Okay, do we have a timeline of when that special meeting, when that executive session can happen? Is that happening tonight? And
Well,
when?
I think we can probably talk about it tonight, and if we need to talk about it more, then we will. But no.
And that's going to take
But-
as long as it takes to do it right, because it's really important to do it right. And I'm committed to do it quickly as we can. But
Yes.
It's going to take as long as it takes.
I think we also, I think as Eileen said, and I'm completely comfortable with this, also with you and Mark continuing your work with, and anybody you want to, as a committee or not as a committee, but to make recommendations, et cetera, while we get the committee up and functioning. So,
Okay.
I mean, we need
So
to.
let's go ahead with that plan of having a meeting with the three of us in Eton, or sorry, the two of us in Eton. And Mark, does that sound good to you? I know you were having another meeting, I don't know if you're actually here.
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Yeah, and I'm happy to attend too, Swift, if you want me to.
Okay. And talk, and then you'll be able to update us, I don't know if that's true or not, but on the executive session on what,
Yeah.
let's go forward with more information.
Yeah, and we should- In the meantime, we should try and figure out how to get the word out a little further in getting members interested and getting,
Yes.
new letters of interest from people who are interested. I'm looking and seeing Michelle's name on the screen, for example. I'm guessing Michelle might be interested, but we don't have a letter of interest from her, so if she is.
I've spoken with her, right now she's not, she is interested in being supportive in the sidelines, and is
Okay.
very interested in that.
Okay, sounds good. Good. All right, so, and I think we need to table this.
Okay,
for
that's
tonight.
fine.
I haven't had enough
Yeah.
time to.
I read it, but I understand that. It's a lot of whereas.
So I'll table that till next
For our next meeting.
September 8th. Okay. Can someone make a statement about the vandalism at this point?
That's fine with me if
Yeah,
you're ready, Eileen, and
Yeah, so Swift, I wasn't really able to cobble together any more of this. Do you want to read that?
Okay.
But
I don't have details.
Okay,
So
well-
I didn't know the dates or didn't know if it had happened in other towns.
So,
Is what,
I can give you so it happened Sunday evening, and it also happened in Brattleboro.
Yeah,
So-
I wasn't able to find out from, I heard that it did happen in Brattleboro, but I wasn't able to find out where or what happened.
It was a
We have
stop
police report
sign,
from them?
it was a stop sign, I think,
In
I only heard,
Brattleboro.
yes,
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
same thing.
So they're investigating both of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
so the sheriff's department deputy has looked at the sign. I've reached out to the state police, I have not heard back from them. I will follow up with the sheriff's department, probably tomorrow, but you know, I'm not quite sure if they're gonna find out who did this. Unless there's a camera at the co-op, there's a possibility we might see something, but,
It's not, you
I
can't really see
also-
that stop sign from the co-op, I don't think.
well,
Well, you might see a vehicle passing at a certain
Right.
time or something,
Yeah.
but,
and Putney Meadows too might,
yeah.
they
Oh,
might have a
right.
camera on that
Yeah.
building. But I asked Brian, of course, we were busy with the storm Sunday and into Monday. So he will go down there and try to remove it with some special paint. But because it's a reflective sign,
Yeah.
it may, you know, we
Somebody
don't
already
have
found it.
any extra stop signs at the garage. So we're gonna try to clean it up and hopefully that,
And if not, we can replace it in time.
yes.
Okay.
So
So,
things are happening.
okay, so I was thinking about this after we worked on this with, and I remembered that, I mentioned this before, that we did pass a resolution. This one was condemning hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
Yeah.
So it's specific to that, but we also at the very end had a more broad statement, and I'd just like to read that. It says, "Be it resolved that the Putney Selectboard condemns all manifestations of expression of racism, xenophobia, discrimination, scapegoating, and ethnic or religious intolerance against any of its residents by any Putney employee or agent thereof." Now, I recognize that just means us as select board members and, you know, people employed by the town, but I think I could speak for myself that I hope that we all feel that is how the majority of this town feels about racist and anti-Semitic graffiti in general. This has become an epidemic where people come in the middle of the night and they scribble things on things, and
And in this case specifically, it was a swastika spray painted onto a stop sign, is that correct?
Yep.
So it,
A little unclear, but that's what it
it's
is.
unclear, but there might be remnants there, and it appears that there may have been a symbol there and somebody came by and spray painted it over it. So it's,
A little hard to say.
It's a little hard to
Yeah.
say, but
It doesn't matter. It
does
happened-
have the
yeah.
appearance.
That's what,
Yeah.
yeah.
right. And I think that's the piece, that
Right.
if somebody actually can visually see something,
Right,
then it's a problem.
right.
So-
And then I think the moral of this is that, you know, it's not necessarily even the intent, it's the impact
Right.
of our fellow citizens when people go around and do things like that. And I just hope that the citizens of Putney and surrounding towns think about their neighbors when they think about spray painting things.
Or maybe even potentially more accurately, when they don't think about spray
Right.
painting. You know, you think about the impact. If you're spraying painting something on a public spot, you need to think about the impact, because we're all here together. And not to negate what you're saying at all,
No, you're
but
right.
I think a lot of the time it's as much thoughtlessness as it is thought that goes into it of the harm that's being done and the impact. And, you know, come on, folks, just give it some thought and think about your neighbors and your friends and
Yeah.
how it impacts them.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Fairman.
I should like to take the liberty of offering a friendly comment to the select board, where I bring 4 minor details to your attention, especially given that you are tabling this document this evening. First, on the first page, the second, be it further resolved, reads, the committee was created on September 11th, 2019, with a specific purpose and charge. If memory serves, it was not created with a specific purpose and charge, and this actually became an open question later on. As I say, I'm just bringing this to your attention. This is not debate.
Yeah.
And then on the second page, the second whereas, it originally read, these trainings have the purpose of, and it has been changed to, these trainings must focus on. And I'm simply asking you to consider what you actually mean here, because there's a slightly different meaning in these words. And then in the fifth whereas, reviewing future town policies and transactions, it now says that is hiring practices. Before it said, for example, hiring practices. So the new wording is much more restrictive. It says that you're talking here only about hiring practices. And I just wondered, do they really want to limit themselves to that extent? Well, for example, it says, we can come up with others, but here, this will give you an idea of what we're thinking. And finally, referring to the Vermont Open Meeting Law on executive sessions, you've spoken of executive sessions regarding appointment of people to advisory committees. Once again, this is simply, I'm bringing it to your attention. The Vermont Open Meeting Law says, and I'm quoting 1 VSA section 313, a public body may not hold an executive session except to consider one or more of the following. The relevant one appears to be A3, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. Now, we've ascertained that members of appointed committees are not public officers, and they're also certainly not employees. We know this. So I'm wondering whether executive session is actually allowed in these circumstances. And I take the liberty of saying you might wish to ask our town attorney about this.
I believe we've already gotten clarification on that.
We have done that, Mr. Fairman, and he has said we can do that. And we can just double check that with them to make sure. But I know that conversation has come up in the past.
Yeah, in fact, there was language in one of the drafts that restricted us from doing it, and they recommended us taking it out in case we wanted to go to executive session.
Because we wouldn't want to give up anything already. Right.
But thank you for pointing that out. We will look at that. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to add, alas, we are bound by what the statute actually says, and the statute says the appointment or the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. So my question, indirectly to the attorney, would be: are you arguing that members of appointed committees are either public officers and or employees of the town of Putney?
Right. I hear that aspect of it, and I know we've had this conversation with him, and I can't remember the specific details, but my guess is this has been tested by precedent, and there may be stuff that he is aware of that we aren't. But I hear what you're saying, as we are bound to the statute, not to our not to our attorney's opinion. But if he has seen it tested and precedent has been set, then. But I don't know.
The LCT attorney
Right.
quoted the statute about this, and
Which Howard
supported our
has.
position. And
Howard
I
has
don't
that
know
email.
how the wording responds to what Howard's saying, but Karen I know she has.
We will take that into consideration as we continue with appointments. Thank you for pointing those things out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so I think we're ready to move on to SEVCA appointment, recommendation and approval.
So in your packet, there's a recommendation to appoint John Johnson to the SEVCA board, which he'll be meeting twice a month, and it's a 2-year term.
And he has
Yes.
already been appointed by SEVCA for their board, correct? So it's a matter of us approving him
Yes,
as our
yes.
representative to
As
them.
town representative, yes.
And clearly, this is some.
He has expressed willingness
Yeah,
to me
yeah, right.
and an interest in doing that.
Okay.
And I think it would help the community.
I'm sure it would.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve the appointment of John Johnson to the Board of Directors of Southeastern Vermont Community Action, otherwise known as SEVCA, as our representative.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve John Johnson as the town representative to the board of SEVCA. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right, Karen, that goes to you then.
So American Rescue Plan Act, the first disbursement has been received of $128,556.56. So right now it's sitting in our general fund. We have 2 years to spend it. We'll get a second disbursement next year.
2 years to spend it. And
Yes.
can you, if you haven't already, and you may have, can you supply us with the
Facts.
caveats that go with it or
Yeah.
whatever it might look like?
I'm
Can we?
I mean, we'll have to have a meeting about that at some point.
Right.
Just to try and wrap our heads around
Yeah.
it. But
So have there been criteria come down yet, or?
Yes, so,
Okay.
and it was in your packets a while back.
Failure, was it?
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll update you again, but economic development is one, housing was another one. If we have any revenue shortfalls, we can use it for that. There's just, it's like
It's a
this
whole
thick.
list. Yes.
Yeah, so there's webinars too that are coming out, so we'll get
Something to look
briefed.
forward to. Yeah.
So
It's a lot right now, just like,
revenue shortfalls can be defined as having to hire subcontractors to pay subcontractors.
I would assume so, but I
Okay,
don't
okay.
know. Yeah, no,
Well-
and it depends, it probably depends on sort of what line item or department it falls
Right.
into, et cetera.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
I don't
curious.
know.
water infrastructure too,
Yeah.
water and sewer, that's
Yeah.
gonna be big for us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things, but you can only spend it on certain things.
Yeah.
It's not like, the feds are coming out with, more money too, for infrastructure, and so we'll dip into that. And I just learned too, the county is getting money too.
Mhm.
So what we're getting, we're gonna be getting more in the county, so we might be able to dip into that somehow, so I gotta figure that out,
Okay.
so.
So
and
is
I'll-
there, do you have to provide needs, so we might want to be careful to use it the right way, so we
Right.
can limit the.
The thing is, it's long-term, we gotta be thinking long-term, what's, gonna sustain us, if we do this or if we do that, but we can't be thinking short-term with this money. We gotta spend it wisely. So, and right now, it's sitting in general fund, making interest.
Good.
So,
Okay, cool.
So it's in our sweep account.
yes.
Right, that's right.
Yes. Property tax, the first installment, as everyone knows, was due last Friday on the 20th. We still need to collect approximately $132,004.89. And we still have a delinquent list of $74,844.07. So I just kind of wanted to let you know where we're at with that.
Do you have any sense, Karen, of how that compares to historic?
It's about average.
Is it?
Okay,
Yep.
that's good.
So I'm not
Good.
concerned right now. The next warrant, we will be paying the school. So it'll be about 1.2,
Wow.
million, yeah. So that's the first installment.
We gotta stop
So I'm gonna
exporting
warn you
all
right
these
now.
educated
You say?
kids. I said, we gotta stop exporting all these educated children, we need to keep them around.
I'll try to keep mine around.
So we have a Zoom meeting scheduled with Wyndham Regional Commission on August 31st for the local hazard mitigation plan. So it's a public informational meeting. People can do it from Zoom, from home, but I do encourage people to call in and be a part of this meeting.
Do we need to attend?
I'm gonna be attending as part of the Energy Committee.
That's good. I'm gonna be there, Tom's gonna be there, Brian Harlow will be there.
Okay.
I would recommend at least one or two. I'll figure out if I gotta warn it.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if
It's
there-
on Zoom, so I'm
I
like,
know, but if we're,
it's not a training, it's a meeting, so, and it is a town-related, plan.
Yeah.
So I may need to warn it for you.
And when is the 30th?
it's.
31st is a Tuesday
Apparently
night.
it's Tuesday.
Okay, so it's a week, yeah.
Yeah.
And it starts at 6, goes to 8. This is gonna be like a quick update.
Can I ask what-
I mean,
what's the
yes,
nature
we're
of it?
just gonna, yeah.
So, this plan needs to be updated every 5 years.
Right.
So, Wyndham Regional Commission usually gets contracted to help
Yes.
Oh,
towns
we talked about this.
revise it,
Yeah,
okay?
I remember this now. Yeah,
Ours has expired at this point,
Right.
but we're not the only town.
Mhm.
So Rockingham is expired, Westminster is under contract, but, what happens, Wyndham Regional Commission, they don't have the staffing to do these reports, so when they all get completed, they start over again, so the state is, asks for certain things, but the demand is just too much for local agencies to handle. So, but Wyndham Regional will help us, they're helping, Rockingham as well. So,
Sounds good.
so this is a good thing that's gonna happen.
Yep.
What else do I have? Letter of intent to Putney Mountain Association for Ursa grant, which is an enhancement of recreation stewardship and access. This is for the Putney Mountain Trails. So the letter of interest, so basically I wrote it to support them. They're gonna send it in, and then what happens is the state will look at their application and the letters, and then if they get accepted, they move to the next stage for the next process. So this grant is for $25,000 and there's no matching. So I think it's a good thing. They're looking at, upgrading the parking lot and doing some of the trails. And they don't have the funds, and this is a good way.
Good,
That's good, yeah.
excellent.
They help us by maintaining them.
Mhm.
So I went ahead and wrote that letter,
Thank
and
you.
I'll keep you posted.
Great.
The pool is closing for the season Sunday, August 29th. I think it was a good season. It was short, but it was good. I'm gonna have Rick, the contractor, come back in. He needs to,
Doing a couple things, yeah. Cool.
fix the ramp. We're gonna do some other things, but other than that, I thought it was a good season.
And were people pleased with the pool? I mean, did you get sort of good feedback on how people felt about it, or not much feedback?
Not much, but it is what it is, and,
This is always good.
Yes.
yeah.
And what was the usage like? Was it?
Actually, so we have a young person is doing a graph, so everyone had to sign in daily.
Yeah.
So, and he's graphing it out to see,
What are?
what our numbers were,
Good.
and, what towns they were from, and, and we had lap swimming this year
Yeah.
for the first time,
Uh-huh.
and that took off.
That's cool.
So, and then,
Competitive or just?
No,
or
no,
Just to, like,
yeah, back and forth,
so you
just,
didn't have to do your
Just to
laps,
have it.
Yeah.
in between the kids.
Yeah.
right. Katie Edmund did 2 weeks worth of swim lessons.
Oh, good,
That was all free. And
nice.
Beverly did some water aerobics.
I think they're having a party too on
And,
Sunday, right?
yep, they've done movies Wednesday and Saturday nights, and we're not organizing, I'm not organizing a barbecue or end of season party, but there should be some information that'll come out, hopefully in the next
Couple days.
day
Yeah.
or two, because it's like on
Because it's
Sunday.
soon. Yeah,
Yes, so,
sounds good, good.
and that's all I have.
Anything else?
Great, thank you.
Okay, good. So do we have any other business for discussion or action? I moved on, but I want to say thank you for making the poll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That took a huge effort on your part
I
and on
know.
a whole bunch of people's part.
Yes.
And I really appreciate
Yeah.
that
It was,
happened.
it was great to have a
Thank you,
back.
thank you, Alyssa, thank you for your part.
Yes,
too. Thank you very much.
And everybody who contributed.
Yes,
But just
all the fundraising,
Karen
yeah.
for making it happen, because without Karen, it wouldn't have happened. So, thank you.
And on that note, I had a town reach out to me about our fundraising, because they're trying to do a fundraising,
Uh-huh.
and so now they're doing their fundraising.
Nice.
Good.
So,
I think this could really bode
Yes.
well for our community in so many ways.
Yes.
So
Yes.
many times. And
Yeah.
thank you for all the generous people.
Yeah,
You know, give back going forward.
Good, so I think we have an executive session for more than one reason, is that correct? You wanted to have one.
I had one item, yes.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to enter executive session Title 1 GSA 313.3. Does that cover everything?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
And I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to enter executive session. I don't imagine we're gonna have a
No.
specific outcome,
No.
So, we can just send you the numbers, et cetera, but, all those in favor?
All right.
And, we'd like to invite Karen.
Yes.
So, yeah.